Hi, Larry Lawton, and welcome to my channel. You're going to hear today's story about Karl Roberson, UFC fighter, 32 years old and suspected of stealing $200,000 in jewelry in a home invasion robbery in New Jersey. But before I get started, let me just tell you about our cigar, the Crooked Diamond. Yes, crookeddiamondcigar.com, and check it out. These cigars are amazing. Yeah, I fiend and I stole a few. So yes, the cigars are great. Go check them out. People love them everywhere. Check us out on YouTube member program. Check us out on Discord. Check us out merch out and everything else that goes along with that. Now, let's get back into the video. Before I get into the video itself, let's dive into UFC fighter Karl Roberson's record. He had a record of 9-4. It was 4-6 in Dana White's Contender Series. That was in 2017. But he was a middleweight to a light heavyweight, and he was known for his striking abilities. A really tough guy, this guy. And he had a promising career until he had 4 straight knockouts. What happened there, I don't know, but maybe the crime itself will tell us a little about that as well. However, before I start, let me explain that just because you're a professional athlete doesn't give you a pass at anything you're doing, because you are somewhat of a role model. And even though I'm not big on the role models of athletes and actors or stuff like that, even myself, I start thinking that maybe I am a role model in some way or another. Even though I'm not so hyped on that, he does have a responsibility, and there are young people that look up to him. The UFC is very well known, and especially well known to young people and young men. Before I get really deep into this, I want to say I don't condone robberies of any sort, but I have a unique perspective on this case, as I looked into these cases a lot. And I was in prison with a lot of these guys who committed crimes just like this. I've spent years studying and analyzing crimes like this, and I'm going to give you my unique perspective on this case. As always, I think you're going to like that. According to reports, Karl Roberson and a childhood friend, another one, Dathan Thompson, 32, both of Neptune, New Jersey, robbed a friend's house, a person they did know as well, a guy named Mr. Leonard. He was actually an Army veteran, and both the same age too. They all grew up in Neptune, New Jersey, and he robbed his house. How that apparently went down, according to the police chief and detectives, it's very good detective work by Ryan Jackson and Anthony Romano. And here's what happened. They actually had the footage, the 21-second footage you're going to see here right now. That footage shows Karl Roberson actually going in through the woods in the back of the house. And now he knew about the house, and by Leonard, as a childhood friend, actually sent him pictures thinking they were on the same level. Both successful now, and they were friends. He actually even gave him consulting about a brand and everything else with the UFC. Now, what happened here was, he was masked, he covered, no fingerprints, but a person's gait, the way they walk, even the way Karl Roberson bent down like as if he was getting in out of a ring. They pried the back door open with a crowbar. They went through the woods so the car was not seen, so he knew the area. He went in and he knew the house by pictures that Mr. Leonard had sent him as a friend. Just, hey, look at my house, it's being remodeled, check it out. And he ended up robbing. He knew where to go, so he knew somewhat of the layout of the house. I don't know if he was actually in it, but he did have pictures of himself, of the house, from his friend. So now these guys all grew up, and this is not a good crime. Listen, there's no such thing as a good crime, but robbing a friend, that's talk about an opportunity crime, and he thought he'd get away with it. He robbed an $80,000 presidential Rolex that this guy got, I think $65,000 gold chain, another $30,000 piece of Cuban gold, Cuban laid gold or necklace, and that stuff's worth a lot of money. What did Karl Roberson actually get for this stuff? Who knows? First of all, how Karl Roberson was caught was he was stopped. They had suspected him. These two detectives did great police work. And listen, detectives do good work. So don't think it's always a rat, because it doesn't sound like a rat. They actually probably pinged his cell phone. They asked the homeowner, hey, do you recognize? He didn't recognize anyone, but this is what Leonard said. He couldn't get it out of his mind that that was the gate that he knew of a friend. Well, obviously, I'm sure the detectives pinged his cell phone, found it close by or at the time of the robbery in the back, in a car, or maybe even on him, and they ended up doing due diligence. So they stop him, and in a traffic stop, they arrest him there. They get a search warrant for the car. In the car, they find crack cocaine. Now, when they say crack cocaine, I'm not buying that all the time. It could have been just cocaine. Cops like to make it really dramatic. Oh, it's crack cocaine. It's like it's bad. You know, listen, drugs are drugs. He got caught with cocaine. He got caught with cocaine. He got also caught with a weapon. And this is really what concerns me as a guy who knows the law. He was caught with a altered, you hear what I just said? An altered 9mm gun with an extended magazine. This is where this charge is going to really go. He was ended up charged with burglary, mischief, possession of crack cocaine, and a firearm, and theft. Now, the big charge, people don't understand, it could be a federal charge if they want to do it with the gun itself. Because when you alter a gun, that's one of the worst things you can do. Try to file off serial numbers, put a silencer on a gun that's not, not supposed to have a gun. All of those things are either licensed or illegal to have in every state, federally. So now he altered a gun. In what way? I don't know. Had an extended magazine. What a little confuses me as well is I'm not sure why they didn't charge him with burglary of an occupied dwelling. Now that's different crime than just burglary. If you burglarize a garage or a store or a shed out in the back, it's not an occupied dwelling, that's a burglary. A burglary of an occupied dwelling is a more serious crime because there could be somebody home. Somebody can get hurt. A burglar surprise someone goes after them, before you know it, there's a struggle, someone dies, and that's a big charge. So I'm not sure why that charge wasn't put on him, which, listen, I don't know this young man's, why he did this. Was it through fighting? Did this guy have a concussion? Is this guy going to use that as a defense? I'm not saying, and I'm not giving him an excuse. I'm saying there could be multiple reasons of the why. You needed money. Is it an opportunity crime? You just wanted to rob a friend. Again, robbing a friend doesn't sound like a great, I don't know how much you would need. Why wouldn't you just ask your friend for a few bucks? Because he couldn't have got much money on the streets for this stuff anyway. First of all, Rolexes are all serial numbered. So you have to sell it to somebody on the streets knowing it's a hot item. He's not going to get that much unless he has fences like I did, so to speak. But he didn't. I'm sure the jewelry or gold could have been melted down. Now, to date, no jewelry or watches was found. Another thing I couldn't find in any research was there was no bail amount on anything. His partner, Dathan Thompson, also the childhood friend, 32 years old, was charged with burglary, criminal mischief, and theft. Not the drugs, because he was arrested at his house with no issues. And he was released on a summons. When I hear released on a summons, that's like almost like a bench warrant or just, own recognizance and you have to show up. I don't know if there was no bond. It did say that he was let out on bail, but it doesn't say the amount for UFC fighter Karl Roberson. So I'm not sure of that issue. It doesn't seem like he was in there a long time. He was out in 2 weeks. Usually that's when you have a bail hearing. Initially, when you get arrested, you have a bail amount. There's only 2 reasons you don't get bail, and one of them is a flight risk. The other is a threat to the community. Obviously, I think they're really not a major threat to a community. It seems like an opportunity crime. And also a flight risk, I don't see that as well. And then this guy, Dathan Thompson, gets released right away. And it took 3 weeks, approximately 3 weeks, for Karl Roberson to get released, which shows me that he had to have a bail hearing. At a bail hearing, you try to discuss what, lower the bond. He's not a flight risk. How much is he going to... Because what happens, what people don't get, when you put a bail that's too much for a person to make, it's kind of like you're being held just because you're poor, which I don't believe in. There's those 2 reasons I believe for bail, but now obviously it has to be some kind of bail to make sure you show up. Obviously, if they think this guy's going to show up and he had a career, then you have no problem at all with that. So I'm not at an issue with that. I am at an issue with what he robbed, who he robbed as a friend, and here's what's going to happen next. They're going to go through the preliminary hearings. I don't know if, obviously, it's not up to the victim who knows him, and I'm sure he's hurt. He said he's hurt. It's really disappointing that it was a friend and everything else. Now, it's not up to that person to say, I don't want to press charges. This man was caught with police work, has zero to do with that victim right now. Obviously, if the victim wants to, press charges and wants to go harder, police listen to that. But at this point, it's up to the prosecutor to either continue this case in any capacity and find out what's wrong. Is this the first offense for Karl Roberson? And if it is he an addict? Did he have some medical issues because he had concussions? And can he do rehab and stuff of that nature? I don't know. I hope they're going to figure that all out. Now, what'll happen to him after that? Once they make either a plea deal or goes to trial and loses, or goes to trial and wins, whatever happens, his next step is going to be either rehab, probation. It could be a stint in jail. They say he's facing up to 10 years. He can be facing a lot more time than that if the federal government comes in with the gun charge and altering a gun and altering a 9mm, whether it's trying to file serial numbers or with that extended magazine, depending on what type of bullets as well as in that gun. That charge can handle up to 20 years. So he could face a lot more time if the feds want the case. Obviously, they have to want the case. Now, let's assume the feds don't take the case. Let's assume the state of New Jersey wants to take this case and handle it in-house. If they have compassion for him and they find out that this guy's got a drug addiction, he's never been in trouble, they want to go that route, there's a number of things they can do. With the charges he was charged with, which is burglary, theft, and criminal mischief, the drugs itself, the gun itself, no matter what, is going to cost the charge. So I feel he's going to do some time. What happens then is he goes through classification in New Jersey. Obviously, let me tell you how a UFC fighter or a professional fighter, if a professional fighter uses his hands or uses his fist or in any kind of confrontation, that's considered using a deadly weapon. So you can't just go in there and beat the fuck out of somebody and think you're all right. You will be charged, and they know that. Especially if you think you're going to put your hands on a correctional officer. Trust me, that won't work. I don't care who you are. They will have something for you, and they'll get you. I'm not saying he's violent. He hasn't showed that violent tendency outside of a ring, of course, but who knows? Now, what's going to happen also is he will get classified. What level of prison has he violent? Has he did anything else? They're going to give him a medical evaluation, and he's going to get what they call a PSI, which is a pre-sentence investigation. After the pre-sentence investigation, they determine your level of custody. His level of custody could be anywhere from a 1 to a 4 in New Jersey, depends on where it's at. And it goes from a high, like I was a maximum security, then you have a medium security, then you have a low security, then you have what they call the camp in the federal system. Now, obviously, first-time offenders, bankers, people who do 13 months, 12 months, 15 months, they're usually non-violent guys writing checks. They go to a camp. Second guys, level a little bit higher depending on how much time. If you get so much time and you're a certain age with the feds, you're going to a maximum security prison, which is a different ballgame. This guy can obviously physically handle himself. How much he can handle himself as far as with money in there, people think he's got money. And let me tell you what happens with known people or known celebrities. People want to try them. They either want to get their ass kicked or they want to say they kicked their ass or whatever it is. There's a lot of crazy people in prisons. And Rawway prisons in New Jersey, that's a maximum security prison. That's a tough place to go. So what'll happen is he'll get classified. After he gets classified, he'll go to what they call intake, and he'll go to a place where they're going to give him what they call orientation. And after that, he's going to be going to his prison. He's going to, met out his sentence. Hopefully, his sentence has a lot of rehabilitation built in it. I don't know the level of rehabilitation the state of New Jersey does. I hope most states try to get a little bit more proactive with rehabilitation and get why he did this. Listen, here's a guy. Yes, he had a career. He got knocked out 4 times. I don't doubt for 1 second this guy had concussions, and it was known. The guy Rodriguez for Boston, the tight end, who went crazy and ended up killing himself in prison, that guy had serious brain damage when they looked at his brain. A lot of these pro athletes who get a lot of concussions get serious brain injuries, and before you know it, it affects them. Some way or another, it affects them. So it is real. So don't think that's not real. And that guy was in a sport that, trust me, you're getting banged around a lot no matter who you are. Why did he get knocked out 4 times in a row? I mean, he had a 9-4 record. So he had 9 victories. And then he went into the series. I don't know how they set there. I think it was 9-6. He had a 9-4 record with 4 losses coming in a row. So something happened. Something didn't click. And I don't know what that is, but I hope this young man figures it out. I hate to hear of cases like this because here's people who have a promising career. The more I look into it, and I don't like crime with anybody, the more I look into cases like this, I think, why? We got to get to the why of these things. I really am like that. And listen, I was a criminal. There was no why about me. I was a bad guy, but I did change, and I think this guy could change. He's young. He's 32 years old. Think of that. I went to prison at 34. I got out at 46. So my advice to him and everybody else involved in these incidents, your life's not over, but you got to change. Hope you like what I talk about. Pass it on. Have a great day, everybody, and please stay safe.